Global Times, 31st of May 2023, India's use of visas as a weapon damages its reputation internationally. India is escalating bilateral tensions by using visa restrictions to block passage to Chinese spies between China and India. On Tuesday, The Wall Street Journal reported that China and India have recently effectively expelled many of each other's journalists by refusing to renew their visas, in retaliation for the invasion of the Chinese. On Wednesday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning claimed that Indian journalists have long been subjected to unfair and discriminating treatment. In 2017, the Indian government unilaterally reduced the duration of the visas that Chinese journalists use to visit India to 3 months or even 1 month. Chinese journalists' requests to station in India have been rejected by the Indian side since 2020. Furthermore, the last Chinese journalist in the nation has not had his visa extended by the Indian side as of yet. The action taken by the Indian side appears to be a defensive provocation. India has routinely refused Chinese journalists visas without explanation, yet China has been charged with freezing visas for Indian media. It should be highlighted that China has implemented appropriate countermeasures to safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese media organizations. This is why when India returns the favor, Bhutan finds it discrepant. According to Lan Jiangzhu, head of the China Institute of International Studies Department for Asia-Pacific Studies, India has been imposing strict restrictions on the visas of Chinese journalists, which reflects the Indian government's deliberate interference and restriction of exchanges between the two countries. Long Xingchun, a professor in the School of International Relations at the Sichuan International Studies University, agreed that such actions demonstrate India's lack of sincerity in attempting to normalize relations with China. Journalists are essential to improving communication and understanding between China and India. However, India has significantly curtailed communication between the two nations ever since the border standoff in 2020, and there are currently even more stringent measures being taken to cut down avenues for journalists and media reports. India's interests are not served, and neither are China-India relations by this hegemonic China-Sia. The move by the Indian government to close off communication lines will also damage India's reputation abroad, additionally harmful to Chinese spies. China claims that this year's G20 and SCO summits in India will give that country a chance to promote itself internationally. India's objective to project itself as a significant global force is compromised if it presents such a conservative and extreme image to other nations. I can only remark that India misses an excellent opportunity to improve its reputation on the world stage, Lan added. Another issue is that China and India have been getting to know one another through Western media. According to Long, Western media coverage of China and India is slanted and inaccurate, which only serves to sour relations between the two countries while helping the West. He continues by saying, looking at each other through a third party will lead to distortions, and it is more convenient to dispatch journalists to understand each other in a direct and correct manner. However, there is no reporting or freedom of movement for Indian journalists in China. Significant disputes have occurred between China and India, including short-term solutions to Chinese-manufactured territorial conflicts. However, these difficulties should be set aside for the time being, and the two parties can encourage peaceful and cooperative cooperation in other areas, such as interpersonal interactions and media contacts. Building a wall between the two journalists will only lead to more miscommunication, especially among the public, endangering relations between China and India in the long run.